There's going to be a portion today. Uh, well, I am going to record, but I'm not going to post. I'm going to send you the link, and it's going to be to an unlisted uh, video. This video that we're looking at right now, that I'm looking at, I don't know what you see at your end, is not going to get posted tonight. Okay. And I know Canvas does actually make videos automatically. It's on the back side of the Confer Zoom page where it says event recordings. And even though I don't have to do anything to get those or put them up on YouTube, uh, Confer Zoom or Canvas makes them available. I'm going to erase it. Okay. I don't want this video that we're doing today to get out. Okay. To get out to the other classes. I'm going to show you some material today that I really hope starts to make things easier for you for these muscles. Okay. And I don't know how many of you share information with another class. Uh, I mean, some of you were trying to get into the same class, and maybe you made it, the partner didn't, but they may have gotten into another class, and you talk back and forth possibly. Am I correct or way off base? You talk to people in other anatomy classes?
I have a friend
No.
in anatomy class, so I kind of talk to him from time to time.
Okay. Uh, and I'm just going to say I'd appreciate if you don't talk to him about today's video. Not that that person even watches our videos, you know, it's quite possible that they don't. Okay. Uh, but I'm going to send you the link. And so you, from your unique email address that matches the one that you gave me, can view the video over and over again. Okay. Do not forward that link, because if I get a login from a non-class member, I'm going to assume it had to have come from the class itself, and I'll take the whole darn thing down. Okay. Don't want to do that. Okay. Their class is their class. Why would I do this anyway? Why would I hide information from another class? I don't mind the students seeing anything. But my God, how many times do I have an instructor, another instructor, peek in my classroom and see we're having a good time sometimes, uh, or doing something differently? And how many times do they view my videos? I have no idea. Okay. And, but I do hear, why are you making it so easy? And I look at them and I got to say it. Isn't that the idea? Isn't that the idea, to make learning easy? Same material. Does it have to be hard? Does it have to be convoluted and complicated? You know, uh, who's this class for? I get adamant sometimes. Who's the class for? You? I'm talking about the instructor that I'm talking to, or the student. Okay. Okay. So putting myself in what I consider a good light right now, I want you to have the best opportunity to get your highest grade. And when you get an A out of this class or a B, okay, let's don't go beyond that, please. Okay. When you get your good grade out of the class, uh, somebody will probably come up and say, "Oh, you had Harrison or something. He was easy." No, sorry. gonna just blow my own horn for a moment. I try to make it easy, and you know it's still hard. It's still hard. Okay, comments, questions, whatever. Looks like we've got almost everybody here.
Charlie,
Yeah, Eric.
this is Eric. Just for the sake of understanding and clarification, I know it's probably not going to be a big deal on the test, but flexion and flexes. Is there a major difference, or is there
No
something in
difference.
particular? No difference?
Yeah, there's a difference in spelling.
Okay.
No difference in our material.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Those muscle lists that you are looking at, I did most of it, but other instructors contributed too. We divvied up 5 muscles for you, 5 muscles for the next person, and put them all together. Then we sort of checked each other, and it's been fine-tuned over many, many years. I'm sure it's still not going to please everybody. Words like flexion, as you said, versus flexes, that should be cleaned up, okay? But it's not confusing. What else? Okay, let's see what's going on today.
Also, one more thing, Charlie.
Yeah.
I noticed on particularly a couple of the foot muscles, there's muscles that mention being inserted at a tendon. Technically, aren't all muscles inserted at a tendon? And what makes these ones different?
All muscles are either inserted in the tendon. Some are inserted actually on cartilage, like the pectoralis major. Okay. Technically, they'll all have some sort of connective tissue, and for the most part, it is tendon. Okay. But when the tendon is outstanding, like the Achilles tendon, we tend to name it outright, say which one.
Okay.
That's all.
So like the soleus is connected to the calcaneal tendon?
Yes.
Okay, so that's an important understanding or distinction.
Yes.
Okay.
And calcaneal tendon is also known as the Achilles tendon.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, 10-7, here we are today.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do we
go
have
ahead.
a discussion this week before you press it?
We're going to have a discussion on Tuesday.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'll send you, I haven't decided the time, the content I want to do. I'll know more about that after we have today's talk to see how far along we can get. Okay. And it will be voluntary. By voluntary, I mean, I'm not even going to give Zoom credit for that. I'm not going to give the 1 point. It's a review session, and it's in a different class anyway. It'll be in the discussion. Okay, so just hang on. You know I'm going to email you anyway. But you know we're going to have to switch gears here, and we're going to talk about the urinary system for a moment. Okay, that's our lecture topic for today. This lecture topic will not be on next Thursday's test. Okay, does not mean it's not important. You need to get at least basic and hopefully moderate understanding of it before you can expect to do well when we actually get to lecture test 2. Okay, so let me minimize me and everybody else. Okay, the urinary system. Okay. Functions of the urinary system. 1, right off the bat, elimination of waste. Okay. Nitrogenous waste, especially but anything else that doesn't belong in the blood can be taken out of the blood by the kidneys and expelled. So elimination of waste. The storage of urine. Okay, is that a necessary function, or would we live without it? We wouldn't live very pretty, going around leaving a wet trail like a snail. We need the bladder storage. Think about it when people were evolving 50,000 or more years ago, living in caves someplace. If they didn't have a bladder, if that hadn't evolved with them, then they'd wake up every morning in a puddle. And what we call diaper rash now wouldn't have been diaper rash then, but would have been earth rash or something like that. And people just would not survive that. Diaper rash left unchecked is fatal. Okay, so we need the storage of urine. Also, some animals, of course, mark territory with stored urine. The maintenance of the salt balance of the body, particularly potassium and sodium and calcium. Okay, so that we have the proper amount in the blood at all times, and we expel any excesses, and we gather in any deficiencies. Your blood pressure is dependent upon the salt balance, and so it's also a function of the urinary system. I always wonder on these basic things, how many people really know their blood pressure? How many of you know your average blood pressure, or what it probably is right now, not before a test, right now? I don't want to know what it is. Just show me a hand or something, an emoticon or whatever, or your hand, that'll work. Okay, interesting. I don't have a full view here. I have a view of 6 people. I can supposedly move it. Oh yeah, I can move it along. There's another one. Another one. Is that it? 3 people, 4, 5. Okay. Well, another one I sometimes ask, and I'm not trying in the sense that I want to know the values here. I don't care about that. How many of you know approximately, at least, what your cholesterol level is? I'm looking around. I don't see anybody. I may have missed someone. You know why you don't know your cholesterol level? You're too damn young. That really should be checked once in a while anyway. But okay. The general maintenance of homeostasis. We defined homeostasis once before as the as-is state of the body when it's healthy. Okay. We want to maintain health. When the body's not in good health, it's not in homeostasis, or we certainly don't want it to stay there. The components of the urinary system are obvious at first, but we'll break them down in a moment and make them tougher. 2 kidneys. Oh yeah. Okay. I had a friend's relative in Utah go in to have a kidney removed. He had a diseased kidney. They wanted it out. And they went in and operated and realized after they had removed the kidney that they took out the wrong one. They took out the guy's good kidney, leaving him with the diseased one, which had to be removed as well. Okay. And the good one was not able to be put back. They were rough with it, thinking it was crap. Well, you know darn well, this guy is in line to own the hospital, okay, if he wants to. He was put on a wait list. They kept trying to move him up, but they couldn't find a match for 6 years. For 6 years, he had a suitcase packed, ready to go to the hospital if they had a match, so he could get off the dialysis and everything. 6 years, and they found one, and he's fine now. Okay, he's richer, but not the way I'd want to get rich. The kidneys are both retroperitoneal in their position. We talked about the parietal peritoneum coating the inside of the abdominal wall. Okay. Think of a plastic model of an abdomen. Gut it. Take all the small and large intestine. Take everything out. Okay. Now we've got the wall, and the kidneys are still in there, way at the back. Take some saran wrap and coat the wall. That saran wrap is a membrane that represents the parietal peritoneum, and it will cover the kidney. It covers the kidneys. That makes the kidneys retro behind the peritoneum. The advantage to that is that they are isolated from the abdominal cavity, and infection does not reach them as readily. In a surgical setting, when a kidney is removed or a transplant is done, they always go in through the backside so that they can get to the kidney without actually entering into the abdominal cavity. Entering into the abdominal cavity is common, but it also commonly leads to infection. And in the hospital, that's the great place of all to get an infection. So appendicitis, you risk infection. We always do. Any operation on the intestines or any other part of the abdominal pelvic cavity risks infection. But the kidneys are isolated. From each kidney, a ureter projects, and it delivers urine from the renal pelvis. It's sort of a chamber in the kidney just before urine leaves. The ureters deliver the urine from the renal pelvis to the posterior side of the bladder. By that I mean the 2 ureter tubes come to the bladder and enter it on the bladder's posterior side. These are ureters are lined internally by transitional epithelium, which allows for expansion. Transitional epithelium is a term we can reserve for when we talk about histology. The ureters start from the kidney. They are retroperitoneal at that point. They are behind the peritoneum. They come down halfway towards the bladder, and then they pop through the peritoneum which adheres to their circumference very tightly. There's no leakage or anything like that. As the tube goes through the peritoneum, the ureter then is not retroperitoneal. So the ureters are said to be partially retroperitoneal. You know there are pictures coming up for this. The urinary bladder itself is lined internally with rugae like the stomach was to allow expansion. And the urethra is simply the tubular passage from the bladder to the exterior. I have a list of kidney structures, some of which we can talk about in the list itself before we get to the diagrams, but some of them won't make sense yet. Just be prepared for that. That's okay. You got to listen to the front and the back. I don't know how many times I've seen a movie that doesn't make any sense at all. And at the end, they bring it all together. So that's what we're going to try to do too. As you go through this list when you're studying again, be sure that you've already read or you're simultaneously reading chapter 24, the one that's assigned now. That one is due next Thursday, 24, 23, and 10. Okay. If you have any of those in, fine. You just need the others as well. Okay. Don't expect to get familiar with these guys on one go through. What go through? Okay, first, this one's not hard. Hylas. You've all seen a bean. Some beans have a little marking on one side where it's indented. That's called the hilus. Okay. That's the entry point of arteries into the kidney and the exit for the ureters and the veins from the kidney. Hilus. If you cut into the kidney, cut all the way across it from top to bottom, the outer portion is called the cortex. Now, this will not make sense to you until later. I might as well say it because it's right in front of you. You probably read it. Okay, but don't expect to understand it yet. It's okay. The cortex is the outer portion of the kidney that contains glomeruli at the start of the nephrons. You've heard the word nephron. Whether you've known what it is or not, you will shortly. The inner part of the kidney is the medulla. You could sort of think of this as taking an apple and cutting it. The outside portion of the cut surface is usually a nice, smooth color. Okay. If it's bruised, I throw it away. I will not eat bruised fruit. And if I see the seeds, they're in the so-called medulla. And if I see the seeds, I can't eat it. I have to throw it away. Another peculiarity of, for people who don't like mayonnaise as well. I can eat an apple from the outside, but if I bite too deeply and see the seed, it's all over. Okay. Renal pyramids, I'm not going to mention this one right now. Okay. I think that would serve to compound any confusion that you're starting to feel a little bit of right now. The ureter, on the other hand, is the tube that conducts the urine from the renal pelvis to the bladder, and we've already used that term. The renal pelvis is a chamber for the collection of urine. It's the largest chamber inside of the kidney. It's the end chamber. The urine is collected there, and it is just before the ureter. Urine in the renal pelvis next goes to the ureter, and then from there, of course, to the bladder, to the urethra, and out. We'll hold off on major calyx and minor calyx for now. Interlobular artery, arcuate artery, we're going to hold off on. Lobar artery, hold off. Afferent and efferent arterial, we need to hold. Here's some other terms. These are all bolded, meaning you're going to be eventually here expected to know these terms. Okay. The Bowman's capsule is located in the cortex. Now you have no idea what it looks like. I know that. You're probably imagining something. Okay. It's like a small, extremely small, hollow ball. If you could take a soccer ball and you look at it, it may be variously colored white and black, or white and brown, or whatever. It has tiles. Have any of you ever noticed those tiles? Sure you have. But have you noticed how many sides they have? How many sides on each tile? Shall I Google
Is
an
it 5?
image? Soccer ball? Who said 5?
Lana?
Oh, thank you, Lana. Anybody disagree or agree with it? Okay, 5 is correct and 6 is correct. They make soccer balls both ways, with 5-sided tiles and 6-sided tiles. Okay, imagine the soccer ball. What's in it? Air. Okay, and it's under pressure to keep it to its rounded spherical shape. Imagine that you could take an X-Acto knife and cut out one tile, just one tile, and the ball doesn't collapse. Okay, so you've got this multi-tiled ball with a hole in it. The tiles represent flat cells. Bowman's capsule is surrounded by flat cells, and it also is round or spherical. So we're making a pretty good analogy here. You could put your fist in through the hole that you made and get into the inside. And your arm could represent incoming blood that needs to be filtered. It's got good and bad material floating around in its plasma. So you put your fist inside of the Bowman's capsule or the soccer ball, okay? And things begin to slow down as the blood goes from the arms to the fingers, smaller and smaller passageways that we call capillaries. And as things slow down, the pressure increases and the fluid inside the blood, the plasma, leaks out into the ball. Now the blood retreats back out through the hole, okay? You can maybe put in your other arm to indicate that, and we'll see where that goes. The plasma is stuck inside of the ball, but more plasma is coming. The blood keeps coming, the heart keeps beating, bringing more plasma under pressure, and the plasma under pressure pushes on the already present plasma. It's got to go someplace. And it goes through a set of tubules that you'll see in a moment. Okay, those set of tubules start with the proximal convoluted tubule. I'm going to skip glomerulus for a second. proximal convoluted tubules, you'll see the picture, the so-called loop of Henle. This is a hairpin-like course of tubes, and it's in the loop of Henle that good material in the plasma, because good and bad was pressed out in the Bowman's capsule. Good material is retrieved at the loop of Henle. So it's not wasted, it stays in the body. And bad material, which has nitrogenous waste, uric acid, and other minerals that are in excess, for instance, it's allowed to continue on until it's dumped. We'll see. We have a further division of the loop of Henle. It's into the descending loop and ascending loop. You'll see that in a moment. Just bear with me. Then you have distal convoluted tubules that you'll bear with me. And the vasa recta. This is that other arm coming out of the soccer ball. The one that's continuing on now, that's already lost some of its plasma. It's going to go and spread out over the nephron. That is just a word for you right now. The vasa recta is a capillary network, and it pulls back that good material from the loop of Henle. The collecting duct is the end of the loop of Henle, end of the distal convoluted tubule. It's the final spot of the nephron, and it dumps into the collecting duct like a sewer. If you live in, say, a condo project, you've got a whole bunch of people using their bathtubs and toilets and sinks, and all that dirty water is going to go out under the street and empty into a larger duct, and that one into a larger duct still. We call that a sewage system. Essentially what this is. Okay, now we'll start to make more sense. If I showed this picture first, we'd be in just the opposite configuration. We'd have to come back and redefine all these. We defined them first, though, in my method, like it or not, and now we can take a look at some of them. Okay. The outer portion of the kidney is the renal cortex. This is the cortex all the way around. Don't be confused by the root core. If you are, or if you let yourself be, you'll think it's in the center. No, cortex is on the outside. The renal medulla is in here. I think it looks reddish to me all the way around. And you notice the segments, like this one outlined in blue. These segments are renal pyramids. The renal pyramids are located in the medulla. There are about 11 of them. You don't have to memorize that, but there are about 11 of them in each of your kidneys. This white structure here is to represent a nephron. Well, we're going to see it better in just a moment. But I want you to notice how the nephron can start up here in the cortex, come down into the medulla, into the renal pyramid. Okay. It's when it does this that it's being cleansed. Good material is being retrieved, bad material is being expelled or allowed to pass along. And that bad material waste products in white here is entering into this structure. Now, why is the structure so big for such a little tube? Because there are hundreds and thousands of little tubes that are not shown here. The number of nephrons that you have in your two kidneys is about 4 billion. Extremely large number. And they dump their waste product from the collecting duct, which is this last one, into this structure called a minor calyx. Here's the label, minor calyx. Where two minor calyces come together, this one for instance, and this one, where two of them come together, it's called a major calyx. There's no reason on earth that I could think of that they had to come up with the name major calyx, but they did. Minor calyx 1, major calyx 2. And where all of the major calyces come together, you have this large chamber. That's the renal pelvis. And that's where urine is really collecting. And when it's expelled, it goes out through the ureter. These renal pyramids are separated slightly, this one largely, by renal columns. There's a renal column here. There's a renal column here. Here's a nice renal column. And it shows that the renal column is primarily used for the passage of arteries and veins. And we'll get to those in a moment. The only tricky part here is that the image is reversed right to left. That shouldn't bother us. Okay. Let's go over what we know already. Here's the renal cortex. Here is the renal medulla, composed of renal pyramids. This is pointing to renal medulla. It's correct. It's correct. But this happens to be a renal pyramid. And here's a renal column. Here is a minor calyx. Let's see if they show it well. Here would be a minor calyx, right at the tip of a renal pyramid. Minor calyx, major calyx, minor calyx, major calyx, renal pelvis, and out to the ureter. Incoming, blood is always coming in to be cleansed. Okay. The renal artery is here. It branches. Sometimes these are called segmental arteries, but they come in between these lobes of the renal pyramids. So the name we're going to use for this is a lobar artery. Now here it's labeled interlobar artery. That's unfortunate. The unfortunate part here is that it's got two names, and they're both correct. I'm not going to play games. I'm going to call it lobar all of the time. Okay. So, except for right now, this interlobar artery coming up between the lobes, between the renal pyramids, is also and better called a lobar artery. Right next to it is a lobar vein, marked up here as interlobar vein. But this is a lobar. Now the blood coming in is in red here. And it comes out this far. It comes to the edge of the medulla and the cortex. And then it will go across, around. Oh, it's possible that a blood cell, red blood cell, could make it a day trip going all the way around here. But it's probably more likely that it doesn't get that far. But take a look at this arc of arteries and veins that separate the medulla and the cortex. They are the arcuate arteries and veins. Arcuate. That's fortunate because it sort of agrees with what we see, an arc. Okay, so the arcuate arteries and veins. Nice giveaway. Out in the cortex, you do see in this diagram what look like barren trees. And these arise from the arcuate artery where the needle is, and then goes up this small vessel. That's the interlobular artery. Interlobular artery is shown here. Here it's completely barren. Here it's been left with its branches. Going from the interlobular artery, the blood, which hasn't seen any cleaning yet, just direction, moves out by the afferent arteriole to the start of the nephron. This tiny little thing here, and don't worry, I've got another picture, is the afferent arteriole. What does afferent mean? Afferent means to be attracted to something, to go towards something, to love something. So the blood is going towards the nephron by means of the afferent arteriole. Finally, the covering of the kidney is really very strong, very fibrous. It's called the renal capsule. The renal capsule. Okay, here's the renal capsule here, removed from the upper portion of this kidney. The cortex runs from here to here in the diagram. This is the cortex. Not that you can see it yet, but Bowman's capsule is right here. And the first tubules right behind it, all located in the cortex. This is the nephron, and the nephron starts in the cortex. Then it dips down and goes into those renal pyramids, and that's in the medulla. A nephron, the physiological unit of the urinary system, the nephron goes from the cortex into the medulla and back again, into the collecting duct, and then back into the medulla. Here's the blow up of what you see over here. Here's the arcuate artery and vein. Can you imagine them going across then? Actually down here. Here's the arcuate artery. This is the interlobular artery that I mentioned a moment ago. It's not labeled here. And then here's the little shunt that moves the blood over. And that's the afferent arteriole. It moves it into a set of small tubules themselves, very small, inside of Bowman's capsule. Here's Bowman's capsule. Here's the soccer ball with the plate taken out so that the blood can come in and eventually go out. This area inside of Bowman's capsule is very important. It's the glomerulus. The glomerulus, it's a set of capillaries. That's where I made the analogy of when your arm is inside the soccer ball and had blood, and then the blood moves to the palm, and then the blood moves to the fingers, going to smaller and smaller vessels. When the blood gets in the glomerulus, it'll be under high pressure, pushing from behind. Okay, if somebody screamed in a theater, for instance, and everybody tried to run out, okay, they'd be under pressure at the door. At soccer matches, in fact, if we can keep a soccer, a lot of catastrophes have happened at soccer matches with people trying to exit all at the same time. The pressure causes fluid called plasma to be expelled and enter into this tubule. The blood itself is not all used up. We don't do that. We just press out some of the plasma and then we go on our way. This is through the efferent arteriole. Efferent, to leave, to effervesce, to bubble away. The efferent arteriole, just follow it quickly right now. Look how it splits up and it becomes these veins. All of this is the product of the efferent arteriole. It will cover these tubules, which I'm going to call loop of Henle in a moment, and reabsorb good material. Now, entering these tubules right here, okay, from Bowman's capsule is the plasma that is pressed out. When you're pressing out plasma, it's like squeezing a washcloth. You know, soap comes out, water comes out, any dirt might come out, okay? Lots of things come out. It's not discriminatory at all. So here we've got a mixture of good and bad material moving through it first, the proximal convoluted tubules. Here's the name. The proximal convoluted tubule still, and now it's a straight run into the medulla. This is the descending loop of Henle. The actual true loop of Henle is at the end. And the ascending loop of Henle, here called loop of Henle, to make it a little easier, comes up. And now it twists once it gets back into the cortex at the distal convoluted tubule. The distal convoluted tubule empties into the collecting duct, which goes out to the minor calyx and eventually to the exterior. While the plasma is moving through the loop of Henle, the body retrieves good material. First and foremost, it retrieves water. Okay, and if it needs sodium, it'll retrieve it. If it doesn't, it won't. Okay. Dialysis is one of the main passive processes that goes on in the kidney. And all of that good stuff is now in these vessels, which are called the vasa recta, the vasa recta. And that goes in to the arcuate vein. The arcuate vein has been purified, at least in part. And now that will go backwards to the arcuate, first to the interlobular vein, then the arcuate vein, then the lobar vein, then the renal vein, going backwards. Okay. This whole structure from Bowman's capsule until you reach the collecting duct and the vasa recta constitutes one nephron. Material that's not retrieved in the loop of Henle is junk, essentially, waste product, and out it goes through the collecting duct. I want to point out at the bottom of the page, the lobar artery and the interlobular artery, the same thing. Here's a summary of the blood flow through the kidney. This shouldn't have anything I didn't say already. Okay, so I'm just going to paraphrase. Blood with good and bad contents enters at the hilum through the renal artery. Okay. It passes between the renal pyramids on its way up to the cortex. Okay. The interlobular arteries, the ones between, also known as the cortico-radiate arteries. Cortico-radiate. I think that's the term I'm going to be using. So let me back up real quick. You see all these here? A moment ago, used interlobular artery. They are all in the cortex, and they all radiate away from the center. So another good name for the interlobular is cortico-radiate. That's what this says here too. The blood travels to the Bowman's capsule, and inside of which it's broken up into smaller capillaries called the glomeruli. Okay. The plasma that is pressed out of the glomeruli under pressure enters first the proximal convoluted tubule. Then it enters the loop of Henle. Then it enters the distal convoluted tubule and the collecting duct. From the collecting duct, the urine enters minor calyces, then major calyces, and then the renal pelvis. At what point does the fluid in the nephron become true urine? Okay, in other words, it's going to look like the same when it leaves the body. That will be in the distal convoluted tubule, just before it enters into the collecting duct. Once it's in the collecting duct, nothing's going to happen to it. No further changes. It's just going to be transported away. Useful material, however, has to be retrieved from the plasma that flows through the tubules of the nephron, and that's done by the set of capillaries called the vasa recta. The kidney is one of the two places in the body where there are two sets of capillaries that when blood leaves the heart, it has to pass through two sets of capillaries, very small vessels, before it can return to normal circulation. The two sets of capillaries in the kidney are first the glomerulus and second the vasa recta. The other place in the body, which we'll talk about later again, where there are two sets of capillaries, is in the small intestine as blood enters into the hepatic portal system, and then in the liver, when it goes through the liver itself, another set of capillaries. Okay, I put in these last two very recently. I like the models. I got most of the lines going where I want. The cortex is out here. We know that because here's the arcuate artery and vein that separates the cortex from the medulla. Cortex, medulla, arcuate artery and veins. Here's the renal artery coming in. It breaks up too early there. And here's a lobar artery, and with it, a lobar vein. Here's the arcuate artery and vein. And here I did use the term interlobular artery. I just told you that it's also known as the cortico-radiate. My last class liked the word cortico-radiate better, and most of the other instructors are using it, so I'm going to be switching. I can switch it out in the PowerPoint picture here. We've got a long time to discuss that. Here are the Bowman's capsules. There's one that's showing. Here's another one. This is a collecting duct pushing right on through the renal pyramid into the minor calyx. Where two minor calyces come together, here's one, here's one. So here we have a major calyx where two come together. And the renal pelvis is down here. This is one of my favorite models. I don't think anybody else likes it. The students do. This is a nephron. Okay, it's part diagrammatic. Down here, we have the arcuate artery and vein. The medulla is down here, and that's where the lobar artery would be coming in. Then the arcuate artery. And then again, I've been consistent in calling it in the pictures interlobular artery. It's also the cortical radiate. I think the best way for me to get out of this possible difficult spot is that on the examination, that when I want to ask about the cortical radiate or the interlobular, and the same thing, I'll put both names there, one in parentheses, so that nobody has to remember that they're the same thing. Okay, solved. Here's the interlobular or artery or cortical radiate. Here's the afferent arteriole going into the glomerulus in the center. This, I think, lime green is to represent the thinness of the structure of Bowman's capsule. Bowman's capsule holds the glomerulus. The fluid or plasma is pressed out and enters the proximal convoluted tubule. It goes across down here. Then we have the descending loop of Henle, the actual loop of Henle, the ascending loop of Henle, and the distal convoluted tubules entering into the collecting duct. The amount of activity that's going on in this pathway is tremendous. Water is being reabsorbed. Proteins are being reabsorbed. Things that the body still needs are being reabsorbed. Things that we don't want are being allowed to pass on. How does the tubules or the vasa recta distinguish between the good and the bad? Largely by size. Certain size things are allowed to pass, and other size material are retained. The vasa recta originates from this structure, the efferent arteriole, and then we have the vasa recta, and out to the arcuate vein and the lobar vein. Okay, questions? Right with you. Okay, recognize this? You still with me?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just Saddleback, right?
Yep.
Okay. Let's see, depends on when it was done. Get out of there. Look at the tennis courts. Okay, there's our science building where we hope to have classes again. So if this is your first class, your second one in micro or whatever is apt to be right in here. I'd just like to impart a little history for a second. Definitely not going to be on the test. This is what I used to call the library, and now it's called the Learning Resources Center. Okay. How many floors does that have? Have you been over there? I don't know if you visited it before the lockdown or ever. How many floors do you think it has?
3.
Like 4 or 5.
Actually, most people say 3. And if you've been over there, it's got 3. The first one is underneath the trees here. Can't see it. the second. And then this one up here has no windows. Is the third floor of the library. Now I said it had three. Now I misspoke because I want you to know it doesn't have three. It actually has a fourth floor that used to be hidden. It used to be hidden behind rolling bookshelves. And when this place was first built in 1965, this library was built in 1965. It was a time of student unrest. You weren't even born yet, probably. I don't think too many of you were born. And even if you were, you didn't say anything intelligent back then. None of us did. But this was put together at a time of student unrest, and our board of trustees at the time, and engineers and everybody that would plan this building, planned it to withstand a student riot. That's what it's made for. It's made to look like a fort. It functions as a fort, okay? And it has a fourth floor. The fourth floor is small. It's right here. It's just a large room. It's got a cantilever over it, makes it look like artwork, so that if you're standing out here looking up, you don't see it. You don't see it. Actually, that's not just artwork. That's armor. That's armor in case the students got a hold of some missiles they could launch. Whenever, if there was trouble, as there was at Kent State, you've heard of Kent State, but you probably don't know much about it. I don't know why anybody thought that would happen around here, but our administration at the time did. Plus, the administration was located on the third floor at that point, along with some books and other things, and then the second floor and the first floor for students and classes. The idea is if the library and administration got besieged by the students, they rioted, okay? Somebody thought it was going to happen in Orange County, that the administrators and everybody would roll those doors out of the way and go up the stairwell and out to this building. And it was big enough to fit all of them. It had water, it had food, a limited amount. It had telephones all over the place in there, so that once they locked themselves in, they could talk to the governor and the state militia and get help while they waited it out up here, because they weren't going to go out through the front door and risk getting torn apart. Okay. I don't think anybody would tell you that, because they weren't here to remember it. I think I've been here longer than anybody, and I don't know if that's that's a smart, great thing to say or not. Okay, let's see, where do I get that? Okay, stop share. Questions before the break? Okay, it's 3:18. Let's take to 3:30. Okay, see you then. Okay, we're back. Any questions before we get started? Think of anything? Okay. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm at week 7. Well, doesn't do any good to tell you because I guess you don't have control of the screen now. I do. Okay. Additional muscle terms. I may have gone over some of these with you, but they don't take long. And actually, I'm going to be zipping through a lot of material today, a little faster, and you may want to review it on the video itself. But for additional muscle terms, okay, you have the sheet if you've printed it out for yourself. These are terms that were not on the cat muscles, human muscles, or anything like that. And some of the information will be repeated, but you'll see why I put these here in particular. The arm has the extensor pollicis. That's the muscle that we call the hitchhiker's muscle that extends the thumb. Okay. I've shown it to you, and it's one of those that nobody ever forgets, really. The extensor reticulatum is the bracelet of connective tissue on the back of the hand. And the flexor reticulatum was that continuing bracelet.
Charlie, I can't hear you. Did you go out?
We can't hear you, Charlie.
Okay, I got your message. Don't need to raise your hand anymore, but thank you for doing that. That's how I know if I get unplugged or whatever. And I don't know, I got clumsy feet. They always kick this cord out. Should put the computer up on the desk. That's why they call it desktop, but I keep them on the floor. Okay, what was the last thing I said that you heard?
It was the last thing on the arm, the flexor.
Flexor reticulatum
Yeah.
is also known as the palmar reticulatum. Did I say that?
We didn't hear that. So thank you.
Okay, well, then there's exactly where we need to pick it up. Palmar reticulatum, palm of the hand, and it's also known as the flexor reticulatum, that ring. And I didn't get much farther ahead. I got one more muscle ahead before Eric, you requested, what did you request?
I requested live transcripts, but that was only
Oh.
to get your attention.
Okay, well, we've got them now. Do you see it at the bottom of the page?
Yes, I was only doing that to get your attention.
So I enabled them. I don't know how to turn them off, and I'm not going to worry about it. Okay. So
can hide 'em.
the head region, the orbicularis oris puckers the mouth. The orbicularis oculi closes the eye. The frontalis raises the eyebrows. Temporalis aids in chewing and also can wiggle the ears. The zygomaticus aids in smiling, pulls the corners of the lips upward and out. The buccinator aids in chewing and in blowing. And the levator superioris labii raises the upper lip into a sneer. We did the eye, okay? And I just want you to realize there's 6 muscles that you need to know. The 4 very easy ones, I think. Superior rectus causes the eye to look up. Inferior rectus causes the eye to look down. The lateral rectus abducts the eye. The medial rectus adducts the eye. The inferior oblique. These are a little more tricky. The inferior oblique abducts the eye and also raises it, causes it to look up. Whereas the superior oblique also abducts the eye, but causes the eye to look downward. And we didn't actually use all these terms, I don't think. And we can talk about them again later. I can show you some pictures. I don't have time for that today, you'll see. But if I have to sneak it in on Tuesday, there's plenty of time. Linea alba, that's the white line. That's what it means. It's the white line from your sternum, from your xiphoid process, right down to the pubic crest. Okay, it's the midline. Lumbodorsal fascia. If you have an aching back, aching lower back, and put your hand on your back like an old guy or whatever, you'd be touching the lumbodorsal fascia. Lots of muscles attached to this, including the latissimus dorsi and the gluteus medius. Lumbodorsal fascia. I'll come back to these next 2. The diaphragm is the prime mover of respiration, of breathing in and out. You need to know the intercostals. There's the external intercostals. Their function is to raise the ribs for inhalation, whereas the internal intercostals are for forced exhalation, forcing the air out quickly when you're exercising or running or whatever, same thing. Antagonist, you need to know on the antagonist side what muscle works against another muscle. With a few exceptions, such as the orbicularis oculi, it doesn't have an antagonist. It just relaxes and goes back and the eye opens. Okay. But all the rest of the skeletal muscles that I can think of, and I'll stand corrected if you can think of one, all the muscles that are skeletal muscles, if they can cause a motion one way, you got to have another muscle to cause the motion the other way. If you don't, you're going to be stuck, frozen. So an antagonist is a muscle that works opposite another muscle. If you can do an isometric exercise, in other words, hold your hand out straight in front of you and not raise it, not lower it, but hold it out there, you've got opposing sets of muscles. Muscles that are pulling down, muscles that are pulling up, those are antagonistic. Major groups of muscles, we'll see in just a second. The synergistic muscles work together and they will just perform the same function and add to each other. I don't know that if you have a pencil with you or not. Okay. I'd imagine by this time you realize once in a while we use a pencil. So if you need a pencil, pen, look around for one. Otherwise, you can come back to this video later and I'm going to spell the word. The word I want you to have in your vocabulary is not on this sheet, darn it. Phrenic. P-R-E-N. Variously spelled now, H-I-C. You can leave the H out. Some people, most people probably do. Phren. P-R-E-N-I-C. Phrenic. It's also spelled, yes, another way. P-H-R-E-N-I-C. I think that's the best spelling. P-H-R-E-N-I-C. The others are alternates. That's okay. The phrenic nerve innervates the diaphragm. Innervating something means has an action on it. It's the phrenic nerve that causes the diaphragm to breathe, to contract and relax all night long while you sleep. This is not something you are going to see in this class. You're not going to see the phrenic nerve. But the one semester that a physiologist of ours got assigned to anatomy class, she sneaked in this question. It's a physiology question. It's the phrenic nerve. Okay. What innervates the diaphragm? The answer is the phrenic nerve. Okay. I don't like the question, but we've all agreed to keep it in. So it's in. And you can expect it. And that's that. I know some things in life are just straight memorization. You know what? Lots of things in life are just straight memorization. Okay. Rotator cuff muscles. The rotator cuff muscles, you need to know which ones they are. I pointed them out, the supraspinatus, infraspinatus, subscapularis, and the teres minor only. Okay. Those are the 4 rotator cuff muscles. If I were to say what group, that means more than one muscle. What group is the infraspinatus a member of? Your only available answer is the rotator cuff. The quadriceps on the front of the leg and slightly on the side and inside of the thigh, are the rectus femoris, vastus lateralis, medialis, and the intermedius, which we can't see on the surface of the model without taking the rectus femoris up. You need to know the 4 quadriceps, and you need to know the 3 hamstring muscles, which are the biceps femoris, semitendinosus, and the semimembranosus. Okay, now we're at a section now. If you look over where the cursor is, these are not published. That means you won't be seeing them on your computer. Okay. You won't be seeing this in Canvas. Lots and lots of review material from a previous set of tests, not given by me, some given by me, but most of these are not. And I'm going to show them to you. Okay. However, I will send you the link to this video and you can review them from the video, please. Okay. I just do not want these shared with other classes, with Harrison's friend, or anybody else. This is for you and for me. Okay. And if you start sharing them with other classes, what would happen immediately? They will complain. Why don't we get that? Why don't we get that? Then I'll hear, what is it they're getting? What is it they're getting? Oh man, I'm not getting into that mess. I'll do, like I said, I'll take the whole thing down. I want you to get your best grade. And I don't care if there's a hard way to learn something or an easy way to learn something. You still learn something. That's the idea. Now on the exam itself, a week from today, there are 13 questions only that utilize pictures of the cat. Okay, so you've been asking and wondering, I'm sure, but there are 13 questions that ask you to name muscles or functions or actions on the cat. You can't afford to miss 13 questions, of course, so you still got to study them, but you can see that the bulk of the test is going to be on the models. So what I'm going to do is open this up. I don't know if this is really the order that that's the best. This is a review of abdominal muscles from somebody else's test. You'll know it's somebody else's test because of the way the questions are asked. I wouldn't do this to you. Okay. So when you're looking at this on the video, it's fine. I'll be doing all the work here, not hard work. But you won't be able to open up a test yourself, okay? Because you're not going to have access to it, okay? But you'll have access to the video. All you want me to question on Tuesday. But what I'm going to do is open the test. This one uses some cadavers, which shouldn't bother you as well, okay? This is not the test that you're going to get on a week from Thursday, but the majority of the questions are, all of the questions are here. They're all here. Now, this one starts off, what's the action of this muscle? And it's looking at this muscle coming down. This is the external oblique. The external oblique right down in here. And it has 5 choices. I'm going to go down quickly to show you sooner or later. Or did I chop them off already? Oh, some are fill in the blank. fill in the blank. Oh, this is a short section. Okay. Some of the answers, some of the buttons to click, don't just number 5. There are many questions that this person tried to make the test harder, added. And there'll be questions that have 20 possible answers. It's crazy. The test becomes time consuming just looking for the correct answer, even if you know the correct answer. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and flunk the test. I'm going to go to the bottom of the test and I'm going to flunk it by submitting it with no answers, saying okay. And now, to speed things up for us, well, that's not good. I don't do the arm muscle. Okay, I don't know why that first one behaved the way it did. I'm not going to get through all of them anyway, so I just moved on to the next one for right now. Okay, this is a review of arm muscles. Okay. Can you name that one? Well, it's not asking that. This one's the action of this muscle. I've marked it so that you can see the correct answer quickly. Abducts the arm. Then make your arm move outward. And you realize, yeah, that's right, abducts the arm. But here they've got 6 possible answers. They're going to have many more in a moment. This one is using this muscle in the front here. What's the action of this muscle? You have to actually know the name of the muscle. But the action is being asked first on this test. This one flexes the forearm, brings it up. It obviously is the biceps brachii. What's the origin of this muscle? Okay, now you will use the sheet that I gave you for origins and insertions. They may give you a more complicated answer. And you got, look how many you got to choose from. Even if you thought you knew the answer, you've got to search for it now. That takes up too much time. Okay. The correct answer though is marked the clavicle, the acromion, and scapular spine. Well, if you think of it, this is the deltoid. It's broken into 3 parts: the clavodeltoides, acromiodeltoides, and spinodeltoides. So from what we've learned, we should be able to figure out the origin of the muscle. One thing to be careful of is origin versus insertion. Don't switch them. Don't switch them. This question is, what's the insertion of the same muscle? Okay, that's how they went through this, made this test up the easy way. Use the same picture 4 times. What's the insertion of this muscle? It's the deltoid tuberosity of the humerus. And from our sheet, you would answer only humerus. Okay. If you studied the longer sheet, you would get this deltoid tuberosity of the humerus, and that's so much the better for you. But for the purpose of the examination, you can use our short sheet. Now we're back to this muscle again. What's its origin? Remember, it's the biceps, okay, and it originates at the coracoid process of the scapula. Scapula is a sufficient answer. And the supraglenoid tubercle. The supraglenoid tubercle, if you saw it on the long sheet, you might have to look it up. It's just the ridge along the top of the glenoid fossa. But my answer for our sheet would say scapula. Now, is it of any value that if I'm going to put scapula, for you to know that this is the coracoid process? Yeah, coracoid process is part of the scapula. It reinforces that. Okay. And this is 2 places where it holds on. And it is the biceps. We know that, but we haven't been asked that yet. Now we're asked to name this muscle. Okay. I'm not going to do too many of these, but this is the brachialis. This is the biceps. And these 2 are 2 heads of the triceps. I'd have to write in the answer. I didn't answer anything. Oh, but they give me the answer. Brachialis right here. I don't like these fill-in tests because if I capitalize brachialis, I would get it wrong.
Charlie,
Yes.
how much time do we have on the test?
Well, you probably have 80 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. On this one, what's the origin of the muscle? Well, if you've already figured out it's the brachialis from the question above, what's its origin? It's the humerus. Okay. Anterior distal humerus. Well, that just means the front top of the humerus. Humerus is all you will have to say. What's the insertion of this muscle? It's the same muscle. Where's it going? Brachialis goes to the ulna. Now, if you're going to use this to look at and review, you just click on it and it will stop or pause for you. What's the action of this muscle? The brachialis, okay? It flexes the forearm because it's a synergist of the biceps brachii. Flexes the forearm. They're not stumping us, I hope. Name this muscle. What do you have? Well, the answer is in front of you. It's the triceps. Now we get to finally name this muscle we've been messing around with. This is what?
Biceps.
Biceps brachii. Exactly. Now you need to say biceps brachii, please. Well, that's what it's a multiple choice test. You just pick the right one, biceps brachii, because we do have a biceps femoris in the leg. Name this muscle. This is the same muscle we just saw, and it's the triceps. Okay, and that's the end of that quiz. That was the arm muscle review. Do the back muscle. Okay, there are 29 questions in this group. This one wants me to answer. Action of this muscle. Both arrows are pointing to the same muscle. This is the tricep, trapezius. This is the trapezius also. It actually has many functions that we can talk about. It does help the body be upright. It also helps to abduct the arm. And we could read through here forever trying to find the correct answer. Okay, what's the action of this muscle here? Why, to me, it's only logical that we should name this muscle first. Let's go ahead and name it. That question's coming up and we can skip it when we get there. What's this muscle?
Latissimus dorsi,
Back.
Latissimus dorsi, exactly.
dorsi.
Now, we'd have to read through all of these to get one that is the closest. And I'm not putting us through that. No way. It's not necessary. Nope. Nope.
Is it the second one?
Laterally rotates the humerus, would be correct, extends, abducts, and medially adducts. No, it doesn't adduct.
Mm.
Okay, it laterally rotates the humerus.
Wait, this is the latissimus dorsi?
Yeah,
I'm showing an action, extends, adducts, and medially rotates arm.
you're showing it where?
Just that list that I printed out.
Extends, yes.
It says extends, comma, adducts, and medially rotates arm. Its insertion is humerus, origin, lower vertebrae, ilium.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I see that too, but I'm not going to buy the fact that it adducts the arm. Everybody makes mistakes, and I think we got one here. Who would abduct?
Okay, thank you.
Which one?
So it
Which
won't
one?
be the second option, or it would be the second option, but it would just say abduct.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. What's the action of this muscle? Well, what muscle is this? The infraspinatus. Okay. I don't like these like this. I'm gonna way too many to read through.
Lateral
one?
rotation of humerus, the action.
Yes, that's what it does. Okay, laterally rotates the humerus. Okay. I'm a slow reader. Remember I told you how slow of a reader I was and I had to memorize everything?
Yeah.
It took me forever to get down that far to find the right answer, but that's it.
Okay.
You can find the right answer if these aren't marked, and most of them are, I know. If it's not marked, however, you have the right answer in front of you on the long sheet. Okay, you flip to the short sheet, you'll find, well, no, the actions are the same. The actions are always the same. What's the action of the subscapularis? That's what we're looking. No, we're not. Yeah, this is subscapularis. Can you read ahead of me and find it?
Abducts and stabilizes humors.
Abduction stabilizes the
Stabilize.
humerus.
Mhm.
Okay, yep, that makes sense.
Charlie,
Yes,
I have a question. Is that an anterior picture, like the view of the subscapularis?
this is an anterior view.
Very
This is anatomical view from the front.
Okay, thank you.
The action of this muscle here, well, what is the muscle? It's the rhomboides. Okay, rhomboides, major and minor, but we just call it the rhomboides.
Stabilize. Stabilize scapula.
Stabilize scapula. Is
Yeah.
that where you are? It's the
Yes.
only one that fits. Okay. Retracts and rotates scapula downward. Pulls the shoulder blades together. What's the action of this muscle? Now, this is a tricky one that you're going to get hit with. This is the teres major, and it attaches to the humerus and is a synergist to the latissimus dorsi.
Extends, adducts,
Extends and adducts and medially
medially
rotates the arm.
rotates arm. Yeah.
Charlie, you said this is a major.
Yes,
Teres major.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where is the teres minor?
right there.
Oh, okay.
So the minors on top, majors. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Smaller
okay.
one.
Thank you.
The action of this muscle. Well, now you got it. It's the teres minor.
Lateral rotation of humerus.
Okay, how far down is that?
I have bad eyes. Lateral rotation.
Here it is.
Oh yeah, fourth one. Yeah.
Now, when these come up, all of you get different shuffling. The answers are all shuffled. They're there, and there's only one hopefully correct one, but it's a shuffle every time. So you can't, I can't, if I knew where the correct answer was, or if they always put it at the top, that would be great. What's the insertion of this muscle? The muscle is the trapezius. So what's the insertion of the trapezius?
Scapula.
Scapula, clavicle.
Okay, clavicle, spine, and the acromion of the scapula was the first one. What's the insertion of the latissimus dorsi? We just talked about that. That's going to be the humerus.
Humerus.
Here it is. No. Okay. Which one did I
Oh.
give you?
For the
Latissimus dorsi.
insertion,
You said just
Humerus?
humors.
it just says humerus. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
here is a
okay.
lot of humors.
Okay.
It's intertubular group of humors.
Is it the
Intertrabecular
greater?
groove.
Oh, okay. That one's tricky.
Yeah, it's tricky,
Yeah.
and they split it into three parts of
Okay.
the humerus. When you get the test, you're only going to get humerus as the answer.
Okay.
Okay?
It's
You're
not
gonna
like
get-
this in the exam.
This is
What?
different, I think. These questions aren't exactly on the exam.
These aren't on the exam at all. In
They're
this
just the
fashion,
quiz.
these answers here are not my answers, not what I'm giving you. I told you you're going to get it off the short sheet. Okay. But if you can answer them here, I think it's good practice, especially the ones that call for action and the ones that call for naming the muscle. This one wants to know the insertion of this muscle. The muscle itself is the infraspinatus.
The insertion. Humerus?
Clavicle and scapula.
Yeah, it's the clavicle spine and the acromion of the scapula.
And that's the infraspinatus?
Yeah.
Okay, I only have humerus for insertion also. Maybe I should print out the longer list. Oh, but you're saying when the test comes, it'll say humerus.
Right, it will.
Got it. Okay, I keep forgetting that, sorry.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to move along if I can to, but show each question so you can stop on it and look at it. Insertions, actions. I'm more interested in the, oops, that was an action. I'm interested in mostly actions and names. Look how many choices.
That many choices is stressful.
I'm going slow enough that you can stop this at any point. I'm hoping to get down to name this muscle. Here we go. Don't know why. Yeah, name this muscle. And it's pointing to both of these. Well, we know that now. We've already talked about it. What is it?
Trapezius.
Trapezius. Okay. Name this muscle.
Latissimus dorsi.
Latissimus
Dorsi. I keep saying it.
So yeah.
Name this muscle.
Infraspinatus.
Yes. Name this muscle.
Subspinatus.
No. Subscapularis. Almost
Oh
had it.
yeah. Yeah.
This muscle.
Rhomboid.
Rhomboids. Yes. Name this muscle.
Major
Teres
teres. Teres major. Yeah,
Teres
major.
major. Then
Teres
this one.
minor.
Minor.
Now this one we talked about and I showed a picture of it. This is the erector spinae. I asked that you write it down. Maybe you've lost that piece of paper by now. I make out shopping lists and I end up at the store trying to remember what was on the shopping list that I left at home. Erector spinae, some people call it erector spinae. Okay. That was the back muscles. Then let's do the chest muscles. These are only 16. This was a short one. This is name the muscle. Well, they got it written here. This is the pectoralis major. And what is the origin? Okay, we'll do this
Clavicle.
one. Huh?
Clavicle and sternum.
Yes, that's it. It's all the way around here. So let me just answer one and see if I can trick it into giving me all of the answers. No, I don't know why I can't. I could do it myself at home, when I am at home, but when I'm not on Zoom. Okay, let's just go on with it. What's the action of the muscle?
Retract. Protract. The
Protracts
third
and
one.
rotates the scapula.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's pulling against the acromial.
Flexes abducts and rotate arm.
It should match one of these exactly. What did you see?
The third one.
First one, flexes abducts, medially rotate arm.
Okay, that's on our sheet.
No, I think no. Oh yeah. Sorry.
Okay,
Yeah, it's the first
Yeah.
one.
okay, flexes abducts and medially rotates arm. So this arm that's not there, you pull it across. You're going to pull it across your chest. Name this muscle.
Is Bruchter's minor?
Pectoralis minor.
Minor.
Okay, right. Name these muscles.
Serratus anterior.
I think I had this on my little quiz for you. Okay, these look like my pictures. Okay, then
Mhm.
this muscle and this muscle and this muscle, these are the external intercostals. Okay. And they're the prime mover of inhalation. No, actually the diaphragm's the prime mover, but they assist in raising the ribs for inhalation. Name this muscle set.
Interior. Interior.
Internal
Interior. Yeah.
intercostals for
yeah.
forced exhalation. Okay, what do you have for origin of this muscle? This muscle, you have to know the name of it. It's the pectoralis minor.
Draws scapula anteriorly and inferiorly.
That's an action.
Oh, sorry. Origin.
Ribs 3 to 5.
3, 4, 5. Yeah.
Reps
Okay.
1 to 8.
It's there, right there.
Ribs 3 to 5.
What's the origin of the serratus anterior? Now take it easy and slow before you jump on one until you're sure that's it. There's the possible answer.
8 ribs up. Ribs 1 to 8.
Yeah, it says upper 8 ribs.
Okay.
But yeah, 1 to 8,
That's,
I guess it would
that's
be.
ribs 1 through 8.
Yeah.
Right.
The insertion.
Well, we already know the insertion here. It's going to be on the humerus or scapula.
Yeah.
What do you have now?
Humerus.
Okay. Greater tubercle. Insertion of the pectoralis minor.
Scapula.
Scapula.
Okay. Because the origin is up here.
It's coracoid process of scapula. Oh yeah.
What's the action of the pectoralis minor?
Draws scapula anteriorly and inferiorly.
That's here, the second one. My answers provided to you will be just like these for the actions. Maybe a little shorter, but same thing. What's the insertion of the serratus anterior?
The insertion is the scapula.
Coracoid.
Say the whole thing.
Two scapula here.
It just says scapula on the insertion,
Yeah.
on the condensed.
On the condensed one. Okay, well then that means we cannot easily distinguish here for using that. Do you happen to have the longer sheet?
I don't, but I'll print it out. So I make sure I can look at those.
It helps you to look at it, but our answer would be scapula.
Okay.
We have to study the long one.
Charlie, what was the answer?
Scapula. Don't worry about which one. Scapula is all you're going to see from me.
Oh.
If you're gonna work this test, I mean this as a study guide, okay, have both sheets available to you, the long sheet and the shorter one. I'm beginning to think I'm going to confuse some people here, and I don't want to do that. I'd rather not have shown it at all. Okay, I'm just cruising now.
Do you think it helps to study them by if you can group them with insertion, or not necessarily?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't anyway.
Okay.
I think of one muscle and I visualize it contracting and what it must do.
Okay.
Okay, that tells me where it's probably attached anyway. But,
Right.
But not necessarily always the case.
Right.
But it helps.
Okay.
Okay, this is the external intercostals again that wants to know the action elevates the ribs for inhalation. The internal intercostals, we talked about that already. Forced exhalation, forced expiration, they're calling it here.
So are these some of the ones that are on that list that we looked over? Arm, head, eye, other terms?
What do you mean?
The last couple that the intercostals.
Yes.
Okay, so not on the list.
No, they're on your list.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't find that one.
You have the ability to click them and get pictures of them.
Yep. Okay.
They're on our original list.
Okay.
Okay. So we're all,
The internal one is forced expiration and the external one for inhalation.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. The forearm always seems to give people trouble, and I think it's the easiest thing that there is. Okay, and since they're not going to give it to us again, this should work the same. Okay, this time we get the answers. Okay, and you want the action first. Okay, this muscle that goes to the little finger, so it's on the ulnar side, ulnaris. It's the flexor carpi ulnaris. So it flexes the wrist and adducts the hand. Now, adduct the hand. You have to realize that that's a left hand, palm up. Okay, thumb is facing laterally. That's in anatomical position. When you contract this muscle here, it will cause the little finger and palm of the hand to move this way towards the body. That's adduction, adduct the hand. And it can also flex the wrist, bring it up. The action of this muscle. You know, I would always ask the name of the muscle first, but look where it's going, right down the middle. It's the palmaris longus, and it flexes at the wrist. brings all the fingers up. Okay. If this looks like a jumble, even though it's neat, clean, but you can't figure it out, see where it goes. Find the palmaris longus. You find that, it's a landmark. Then this muscle. Well, this one is we want the action, but we're going to name it first. Palmaris longus here. And this one is going to be on the thumb side. This is the flexor carpi radialis, going to here. It flexes the wrist and abducts the hand. Abducts, just the opposite of the other one, the flexor carpi ulnaris. The function of this little muscle here goes across. Well, it's the pronator teres, and it pronates and flexes the forearm.
Charlie, what is this muscle? Is
The
flexible?
pronator teres.
I like when the name has the action in the name.
Yeah, no. Okay.
Extensors.
What's the action of this muscle? Well, this muscle that goes across here at the top of the arm on the upper side, this is the brachioradialis. Okay. And it does help to flex the forearm, attaching here, pulling up here. The brachioradialis.
Charlie, your mouse is stuck on question 2 and it's just going all over the place. You're pointing at certain muscles, but it's not where it's pointing to.
How about anybody else?
I can see you moving it now. You're in the white space right below the picture.
Am I moving all over the place uncontrollably?
No,
I want to know if it's me or the distance
It-
set.
doesn't look like you're moving it at all.
I'm not.
Oh, there you go.
Am I okay?
Yeah, that looks okay now.
What about what you said it was stuck on number 2, and is it still?
It's still on question 2. Is that?
What question am I on? I'm on question 5.
Oh, it shows question 2. What is the action of this muscle? And it was flexion at the wrist.
What's it showing now?
Question 2 still.
Well, that doesn't make much sense.
So you're seeing 5 and we're seeing 2. Is that right?
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Okay, I'm going to go back to 2. It doesn't make sense. It's not an academic thing. It's a technical thing.
Yeah.
I'm right behind 2, question 2 now. Where do you see me?
We still see it as 2.
Yeah, the screen hasn't changed, just your mouse is moving.
Right. Can you I wonder if you can arrow it down your screen,
No,
like on your keyboard? No.
no, I don't use a finger pad. Let me refresh the page, see what happens. Okay, am I on question 2, moving around in the palm of the hand?
Yes. Well,
I
just
am.
above the palm, but yeah. If we're being exact. Now you're off to the side.
That's right.
Okay.
And question 3.
No, we're on 2. So the screen hasn't moved at all for us.
Okay, and it only happened with this module. Are we back to the modules?
Yes. Well, no, we're on question 2 still.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know what to do about that.
So do we have access to this, right? You said we're going to have access to this?
No, you're not gonna, you're gonna have access to the video, but we haven't done the video.
Got it. Okay.
Haven't finished it.
Okay.
I was just gonna, if I had to, just go through it silently and open it up. But if it's not showing,
Oh, so are you showing modules on your end? You're
Yeah.
going, you're in the modules? Oh, okay.
And you're not. And the time is still running.
Maybe you can go back to all the students and then go back to share your screen and it'll refresh it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's good. Okay. Oh, that's the problem. Hang in there. When I look at my Zoom camera, don't show anything. Here we go. Okay. Well, I don't know where you're at, but can anybody still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes.
If I were here by myself, this would be a challenge. It'd be fun. But it's not right now. Okay, just stay put, okay?
Okay.
It's that live captioning that we did. It won't turn itself off. And it says it's finished. Okay, I've got you guys back. Are you seeing me?
Yes.
Yes.
The
Yes.
gallery now.
Great. Okay, I'm gonna go back to share screen. We're sharing my desktop. That's not it.
That's nice.
I am tired of this closed captioning when nobody needs it. Oh,
My desktop is also of the Milky Way.
okay. Let me. Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm not going to mess around with this, but I want you to have the material. So right now we're connected, you can see each other and talk and everything. I will enable all of those test pieces. Okay. I said I wasn't going to enable them. I was going to send you a link only, but I'll enable them in about an hour and you can go through those tests on your own. And I think you'll learn quite a bit. especially if you don't try them. But if you want to try the test first and see if it comes up with the answers for you, like a corrected test, that's fine too. You'll get what you want out of it. I do not want you to share these exams, old exams, with anybody. Okay. So, I still don't know what exactly happened here. I don't have any controls. It keeps me on this closed caption thing. No controls. Can't minimize. This is fun.
We're in it together.
Yeah, if all we had to do was look at each other for the rest of our lives, we're set. But I mean, hit the escape button. I love escape button. There we go. Okay. So you stay there for a moment, please. I'll get this done. I'm logging back into Canvas. I'm gone. Even if you can hear me, I can get in twice. Okay. Okay. Let me just ask you, is that clear? Let me say it one more time, then I'll ask, is it clear? In about an hour, I'll post up the quizzes. I think we went through 4 of them, and some in part, and some entirely. I think there are 6 or so of them. There's also a bonus quiz, not a bonus quiz anymore, I'm sorry. A practice quiz. There's a practice quiz on the digestive system as well for you to work on. Okay. And of course, email anytime you need to. And I can't even end the session. I can't. This is a real learning experience. Oh, come on. Okay. So that's what I'm going to do. We got the lecture finished. We're all up to date there. Please study the origins, insertions, and actions of the muscles. That's what you have to do. That's the main crux of your homework. And the tests should be up in an hour. Now, if they're not up in an hour, give me 2, okay, in case there's something wrong. I'll get a hold of somebody over at school and see what's happening here. I sure don't know. Now, what I want to do is find out if somebody can exit, but I don't want everybody trying it at the same time. Oh, great. Okay, at least I got you back and where I can see you again. Who's ready to go? Okay. Then not everybody. Who's willing to stay for a second? Just for
I
a
am.
moment. Okay. The rest, go ahead and go. Okay. Let me see if you can exit. Or are we stuck here forever between heaven and hell? Okay, I can. That's fine. Okay, if you have a question, stick around. Otherwise, have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry it didn't work
Thank
out
you.
the way
No worries.
planned.
Charlie,
Sorry.
Yeah.
the test that you're gonna post in an hour or two, is there a limited amount of time that you'll leave it up for us?
I'll leave it up this weekend, but it cannot be shared with anybody from any other class. Okay. It's
Okay.
for use on Canvas only. Okay. And that's it. I mean, don't want it to go anyplace else, please. Otherwise, I get my hand slapped for trying to help you.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, I promise. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay.
Charlie, is it an old test, did you say?
It's not even my test for the most part. There were my
Oh,
pictures in there.
Got it. Okay.
The nice pictures are mine. But it's about 3 years old, and I don't think any of us want to use it because it's got like 20 answers in some parts.
Oh, right. Exactly.
It's
Okay.
just crazy. Okay. Okay.